Hello everybody, good evening and a very warm welcome to the Circuit Paul Ricard here at Le Castellet as SRO Esports returns once again for the second Sim Pro Series at this incredible French circuit. Behind me you can see the sensational Fanatec Arena. So let's head up and talk a little bit more about the qualification process ahead of this race. As ever in SRO Esports, we have a qualification process that our drivers have to undertake in order to earn their place on the grid. However, what's very special is these rigs that you see behind. They're open to members of the public on site to come, set a time, and the quickest driver will be awarded a place in the race. A big incentive to come down to the circuit, starting here at Paul Ricard and then moving on to the next rounds to see if you can join us on the grid. And we've also got something else, a little bit special, but I'm not going to spoil the surprise. We'll talk about that a little later on as I hand over to my colleague Ben and we're about to go racing.
Thank you so much, Paul. Welcome along, everyone, to the Fanatec Arena here in the heart of the paddock at Paul Ricard Circuit. Right now, we have the 6 hours real event on circuit, halfway through their 6-hour endurance. But we are focusing now on this esports event. The second round, where we have professional sim drivers in these rigs. At the second time, we've actually done this in a championship format. And we will be doing this across the whole season of the SRO Endurance Cup. The second round here being Paul Ricard. Next up in Spa-Francorchamps, then we will move to the Nürburgring and finish the year as we usually do in Barcelona. And all of this lot will be with us along the way. Great to have these guys in the arena in this kind of environment, using unfamiliar rigs and setups away from the lockdown constraints of COVID. We are very much back to full fat racing. You saw Paul Jeffrey outside a little bit earlier. We can now welcome him into our studio. And Paul has been following everything that's been going on in this Fanatec Arena across the weekend. We've already had the real drivers from the real event in here, and now we've got the sim drivers, and we see the gap always between the two. These guys really are, I suppose we could say they are athletes.
Absolutely, absolutely. We spoke a little bit about on yesterday's broadcast when we did the GT Pro about how involved the sim racing drivers are and the sim racing teams are together with the real world counterparts. And these drivers, they train, they test, they look at data, they look at physical conditioning and also social media as well. These are fully fledged sports people.
And it's such a mammoth undertaking, not only to get these guys here, but also to bring this mammoth Fanatec Arena around the whole of Europe. It's been doing a tour for the last couple of years, going from racetrack to racetrack, building the 24 rigs within the arena, and then, of course, at the end of the race weekend, taking it all down and moving it to the next place. And this was the first round of the championship in Monza. An empty paddock, and it just begins to grow. It's something like 15 tons worth of kit to build this whole arena up.
And it's absolutely incredible to see that happen. We've seen it obviously sped up. It's a massive undertaking, a lot of people involved. But when we do get the arena up and running, to see it in the heart of a paddock bed, to see it all set up with the racing rigs, the crowds, the lights, everything together, it's a thoroughbred arena for sport.
Yeah, we're not relying upon pit buildings and small garages. We are having this purpose-built area, and it really does. It's become a very special place in my heart, that's for sure, over the last 3 years. And I know as drivers have got more success here, they've loved it more and more. And it is very special bringing these sim drivers to these together. Number one, bringing them all together so they see each other's faces. I mean, I've commentated on so many of these ACC races, and finally I get to see these guys in person. I had breakfast with the BS competition boys, apologized for getting their names wrong yesterday, met the 2 Malaysian drivers we have for the very first time. It is absolutely wonderful, and such a massive effort from those teams and those privateer drivers to get themselves here. Imagine, we've got Alex Young's son and we've got Alif both here, flown from the Asia, to represent effectively Asia here in this arena.
And that just goes to show exactly how large sim racing has become, exactly how important the SRO Esports world and ecosystem of events is. And actually, while we're talking of the drivers, a little bit earlier on, before we started, we did a little short video introducing them and welcoming them into the Fanatec Arena. So we'll have a look at that video now, and we'll have a look at some of the stars of the Sim Pro series, and we can see them immediately coming in, and you can see the rigs all laid out. These are all identical rigs. These drivers have all been practicing, Ben, over the course of the weekend to prepare for this very moment. And the pressure, that's exactly like you get in real world racing, isn't it? The pressure, they know they need to perform.
So many of them will have a little bit of familiarity from Monza last time out, but we do have a few new names to the championship. Some of the teams switching out their drivers for various different reasons, and that will be a mammoth undertaking to feel comfortable with what they are faced with here, to get used to a rig that is unfamiliar. That is literally like normally driving a Ford Fiesta and then being given a Ford Mustang or a Ford GT40 to drive. It is a completely different beast, and you need to understand how this rig feels versus what they are used to creating all of their successes in.
Yeah, and I think an element of that one is adaptability is the biggest word, isn't it? You have to adapt to the equipment that you've got underneath you. You have to adapt to the environment as well, because obviously, you know, whenever you're doing any kind of creative work or producing any kind of performance, it's everything around it. It's the environment you're in, the temperature, having the facilities on hand that you're used to having. Coming here, it's a warm environment, there's a crowd, there's the two of us going out over the loudspeaker over the top of their headphones, and there's the action and movement of being in a paddock, being in temporary accommodation because you're in a hotel room or whatever it might be, the logistics of coming to and from the circuit, filling your downtime. This all takes away energy, and that's who can adapt to that and compromise the best will be able to access their best performance.
Let's have a look then at the entry list for this second round of the championship, a 5-round championship across the whole year of the Endurance Cup. Tobias Pfeffer leads the championship after victory for last time out.
Yeah, Dominic Blyer for Williams Esports, a works Williams driver, and then Danny Savini again, another very talented star.
Mohammed Alif travelling across from Asia to join us. Huge effort. Thank you so much. Bastian Richer gets into the number 14. That's a new name, as I think is that one, Nicholas Hublen. Yes, because Bastian was in the 15 before, so he isn't new, but he's in a different car.
Yep, absolutely. Luca Lossio, Matteo Tiskovic, a driver that's going to be coming into this one as a very much a star to be reckoned with. Matej Malinowski, he's the driver, Ben, that is our wildcard entry that qualified on site.
And the best dressed. He wins the best dressed.
Sure.
For the whole weekend, he's been incredibly well dressed. There's Veloce being represented, McLaren being represented, Chris Hartwell very fast for Ferrari, and Dario Lemuo for the Ballas Esports team.
Yep, so you've seen some massive names. Kieran Pendergrass there for the Brabham Esports team. David Tanitsa, a former F1 world champion, now with Lamborghini, and Michael Romanadis as well, that we saw there. Artur Camara had a rough weekend last time out. He'll be looking for a better result, as will that man, his teammate Gregor Schill.
And those two brought BMW a victory yesterday in the sim racing drivers, the real racing drivers race, with BMW looking very, very strong. So they obviously have a good setup. Dennis Schoninger with the Mercedes Williams.
And Leon Hopper that we saw there as well for the Grid Finder team. Another new driver into this time. He replaced the last driver that we had at Grid Finder. So we'll get into that as we get into the racing action, the drivers and the swaps and the changes. I have copious notes on my desk about who's gone where and why and how. But it's a new track. There's a new balance of performance in place. The cars are separated in practice by thousands, not tenths, thousands of a second. This is going to be intense.
And you spoke to the man who was able to overcome that intenseness in our first round in Monza. Tobias Pfeffer leads the championship coming into round 2, and we had a few words from him earlier on.
Ciao everybody, welcome to this quick video interview where we're going to ask you a few questions about yourself so you can be familiarised with our audience. First question, what is your name?
My name is Tobias Pfeffer.
Do you have a nickname? And if you do, can you tell us what that is?
It's salty because of my last name.
For which team are you racing this season?
I'm racing for Mercedes-AMG Esports team HRT by UL.
Where are you from and where do you live?
So I'm from Germany and right now living in Munich. Yeah.
How old are you?
I am 18.
Why did you start sim racing?
I started sim racing because of my dad, because he also did sim racing.
This is an interesting one. Do you have a pre-competition ritual?
It's probably praying that it's going well, so yeah.
Roughly how many hours of training would you say that you do per day?
It depends on which day, but 2 to 3 hours a day.
What is your favourite track?
My favorite track is Nordschleife.
Race winner Tobias Pfeffer in first place.
And that, Paul, is one of the fantastic things about having our drivers in the arena. We actually get to meet them, we get to understand their personalities, and we get a chance to really know these drivers so much more than we ever could if they were online racing. All right, Discord, and you can go in and ask a few questions, but here they can't just walk off. If you ask them a difficult question, they're going to have to give you a difficult answer. And I know you've been hanging out with them and gaining so much insight.
Yeah, and it is. You can see into the whites of their eyes. And that's really, really important. Sim racing is, sadly, a bit of a remote activity. Traditionally, you're racing from your own locations online more often than not. So to be in a state of the world that we're in now, where we can bring on-site activations together, a lot of these drivers have raced each other for years, if not decades, and some of them have never met, is absolutely incredible. But Ben, before we go any further on that, I just want to reach back to the start of the show where I alluded to the qualification process and our rigs outside. So to be clear, these are works professional esport drivers that drive for professional teams such as Ferrari, Lamborghini, BMW, Williams, etc. But we have an on-site qualifier, and this weekend we have not one but two rigs. One for the on-site qualifier and one for the brand new, the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports Series by Lamborghini. We've got a little trailer that we're going to show while we talk to you a little bit about what is the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports Series and how can you get involved. So essentially, this is an official eSport championship by Lamborghini using the Super Trofeo Evo 2 in Assetto Corsa Competizione. There will be 4 racers, hot stints to begin with, to set the fastest 24 drivers. They will then go into a race on that particular circuit, and the top 4 of those drivers will progress to a grand finale. This is for the European region. That grand finale will then take place at the Nürburgring at the end of the year, on site in this very Fanatec Arena, and the winner can become an Automobile Lamborghini eSports professional driver. And then for the North American and the Asia regions, we'll have online activations and competitions. And again, the prize at the end of that one will be to represent Lamborghini in their local area. That's not a bad prize to become a works driver for Lamborghini.
Absolutely. And it's so good, once again, to see the manufacturer involvement.
Yes.
We talk a lot about that when we have the Pro Series, because they are pro drivers coming in. But those manufacturers are now supporting sim drivers too. And as we go through the entry list, again, we can mention the manufacturer involvement, the guys who make real cars in the real world, supporting the virtual world as well.
And that's incredible. That's life-changing for a lot of the boys and girls that race in the world of esports. No longer is this a hobby that you enjoy and spend money on and compete in these races and win prizes from time to time. These are professional paid. It's what they do for a living. And I think we can't reiterate that enough. They don't go to work 9 while 5 and then come home and do this at night time. This is their job. So when you go through airport security, they say, what do you do for a living? I'm a works esport driver. That's incredible, isn't it? And to say we've moved on, you and I have both been in this industry for a long, long time. This would be unthinkable 5 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago.
Yeah, a lot of people dipped their toe in, but there was never really any sincerity to it. There very much is now, and it's great to see. And if you have any questions regarding sim racing, or indeed the race that is about to happen, then make sure you get in contact with us. We do have our social medias on our phones, and we are ready to answer any of your questions. We'll try anyway. The arena is active right now. We have, or I think we've had qualifying It has been going on, just a 15-minute session for the guys to establish the grid, and that has been happening whilst we've been previewing the start of this 1-hour race. 5 minutes still to go. Yeah, so they are about to get themselves back up to speed for their final runs in this 15-minute qualifying session. Interesting, the qualifying is at 7 o'clock local time. That means we're going to be racing around 8 o'clock local time, which means we're going to get another nice sunset.
Indeed we are, and the sim looks spectacular in those conditions. But Ben, just before we get into the throes of qualifying, take a look at the times on there. Just under 9/10 of a second, covering the top 24 drivers. We said it was going to be close. In free practice, it was something like 0.003 of a second between the front two, and we've got 0.2 of a second covering the top 8 already.
Unbelievable, and a real mix as well of manufacturers well, at the moment we've got the two Mercedes at the head of the field. They were very, very strong in Monza. Schoeninger is the new driver in the 555 car, because Dan McCormack was aboard that car in our first round.
So, Dennis Schoeninger used to drive the number 53 at Monza, but he's been replaced by Tinko van der Velde. Schoeninger then has moved himself over, so he's now participated in car number 555, replacing, as you say, Darren McCormack. So we've got Tinko van der Velde, new to this race. He's unavailable for this event.
Aha.
He's elsewhere on Williams eSport duties. But again, don't forget, Ben, it's points for the team, not the drivers, which is very important.
What we needed from you, Paul, actually, is a whiteboard.
Yes.
And explaining all the driver movements.
And a 25-minute intro time so we could go through every single one. Absolutely.
Because we have Mercedes AMG Esports Team HRT by UOL, Unicorns of Love. We have Mercedes AMG Esports Team Unicorns of Love, so without the HRT bit. We have Mercedes AMG Esports Team Williams Esports. We don't have a Mercedes Esports Team just Mercedes in this particular one, but in other esports events we also have just a Mercedes one. So that is, I suppose, to denote the team in which you are scoring points for, but also has links, HRT being obviously a professional helped racing team. And that is a team that is being represented right now out in the 6-hour race here of Paul Ricard. So the points and the association and perhaps even a little bit of support coming from the real team there.
For sure, absolutely. So we've got 3 minutes just under left on the clock in qualification. Remember, this will set the grid for the 60-minute race that we are about to engage in. And Dennis Schoeninger is your man on pole position, just ahead of that man, Tobias Pfeffer, that we spoke to at the start of the show. Lamborghini are looking menacing in the hands of David Tanitsa at this moment in time as well. Third on the provisional grid, 1.2 tenths of a second away. Then Artie Camera, who I spoke to earlier, was feeling a little bit, not unconfident, but a little bit concerned that the BMW maybe at this stage doesn't have the outright pace, is driving the wheels off that thing to get fourth on the grid, and they're looking very much in contention.
I was a bit concerned there because we had Tobias Pfeffer on the left-hand side. I'm sure we had a BS competition driver on the right-hand side. These two insets don't actually associate each other to each other. But they've got Tanitsa in a Lamborghini on your right and Pfeffer in a Mercedes on your left.
It's a ringer. It's a ringer.
They are not associated.
No, absolutely, absolutely not. But again, this is great, isn't it, that we can see the drivers, we can see their facial reactions, we can see how hard they're working on the wheel while they're actually in flight, as we're looking at this moment in time at Tobias Pfeffer. Second position, he's not lighting the timing screens up yet, Ben, but it's still very much a monster second sector and final sector, and this could be on for the pole.
7/100, 7.5 hundredths off. I mean, it's nothing. You can't even blink. You're trying to find that. I mean, he's now 1 minute and 10 seconds into the lap, and his time is identical to what he managed last time. Now he's found a 10th in the braking zone into Le Boursier, but he loses that 10th of a second in the second half bit. So he's actually gone in too hot and lost it on the exit. But now, by the time he's completed that corner, it's exactly the same again. It's so interesting to see the running clock, which unfortunately we don't have on the broadcast, but we do have it in front of us. And he's now going to lose 600ths of a second as he comes through the last couple of corners. The pont is the last turn, which is more than a hairpin actually, quite slow. Comes out of the turn and loses 2.5 tenths of a second through that last turn. So that's the kind of information that these sim racers will be analysing, looking at. and will therefore be able to know where they've gone right, where they've gone wrong.
Yeah, and they'll be analysing that data. A lot of these drivers that we've got here today, they've got sort of engineers and analysis. I can see one actually for Lamborghini right through my window.
I know, right?
Little wave there. Looking at all this data as it happens, looking at the times, looking at the sectors, where other people are on the circuit, how the car is behaving. It's not a solo endeavour, this. You've got a whole army of people behind you, but 13 seconds left on the clock. Ben Gregor Schill crosses the line 13th. He'll be hoping for better than that one, as a couple of drivers, Danilo Amulo and Danilo Santoro, are in pit lane, so they've given up their opportunity to move forward as we head into the final few moments.
And the tightness of the field makes it impossible for our TV director to pick the right car to broadcast, because a lot of people are going green right now, but they're only going green by half a tenth of a second, so it doesn't really matter too much. The big shaker, the big mover at the moment was Tanitsa, who found himself quite a lot of time in the last sector of the lap, but ultimately lost it, I think, through the last couple of corners. So he's now taken one of the first to take the checkered flag, and he stays at least third position in the Lamborghini.
Yep, so still a strong result for Tanitsa as the last few cars work their way through. Bastian Richter as well and Tinko van der Velde complete their session. They're provisionally in 7th and 11th provisionally, as we see Jordan Sheridan now with a very quick lap right at the death. Moves the car up into third position, so good time from Jordan.
Has Pfeffer found a little bit? He's half a tenth up through the final couple of turns. This might be better. Schoeninger is in the pits, so he cannot improve. Will Tobias Pfeffer take the pole position off his teammate? He found a tenth of a second in the braking zone, but he's slower on the exit, and it is going to be a time which is basically going to match, I think, what he's managed before.
Yeah, Pfeffer, that final corner proving a little bit difficult for him on the last couple of laps of rotation of the car, not quite where he needs it to be, and as you say, that's where all the time was lost. The checkered flag has been waved, so if you cross the line, such as Tobias Pfeffer, your day is done for qualification. And looking down the timing screens now, Gregor Schill, that we're looking at on screen, is trending for a faster lap than his previous one, and there he goes, crosses the line, 9th place and into the top 10.
Yeah, good work from Gregor Schill to find a bit of time there. Just a couple of positions behind his teammate Arthur Camara, and 500ths of a second. It is mad that we talk in such small margins. What is it? 0.2 of a second separate the top 10. And okay, the field spread at the back is a little bit wider, but 2.5 tenths separate the top 10.
It's incredible, and it really just goes to show that these drivers are at the absolute limit of what these cars are capable of doing. Again, all the things we spoke about, the environment, etc., and everything being different to what they're used to, and they're still delivering performances where 8 tenths cover the top 24, 2 tenths for a second the top 10. It's just sensational to see, isn't it?
It is absolutely sensational. These drivers are working hard as well, because it is very, very hot. Here is the result of qualifying then. We've got a Mercedes on the front row, Schoeninger and Pfeffer. Then Ferrari, Lamborghini on row 2 with Sherritt and Tanitsa. Chris Hartveld in 5th. And the best of the BMWs, Arthur Camara in 6th position.
Bastian Richter is 7th for the Mercedes AMG Esports team. Unicorns of Love just ahead of Dominic Blyer in the Williams Esports. 2 Mercedes on 7 and 8. 9th position, Gregor Schill for the Big S Plus competition team. In 10th place is Danny Savini for Jean Lacey Esports.
Dario Lamuro for VS Racing by Ballas Esports, Lamborghini in 11th. Tinko van der Velde for Williams Esports, Mercedes AMG in 12th. And then 13th, Matthias... you take that one.
Matthias Tiskovic. I've asked this one many, many times.
Well done. Luca Lossio in 14th position for Lamborghini.
So Nicholas Hoburn in 15th place, just ahead of a brand new entrant into the world of SRO Esports. On-site, Giuseppe De Anna for SPQ Racing Team will start in 16th place. In position 17th, our wildcard winner, Maciej Malinowski, for on-site qualification in the Lamborghini, is 17th, and he's got form at this place. He won a couple of days ago in the online European Sprint.
Ah, nice. Leon Hope for Gridfinder 18th, and Mohamed Alif for Flash Axel Ferrari in 19th, all the way from Asia. Luke Whitehead, the lone McLaren for McLaren Veloce in 12th position.
And in 21st, Danilo Santoro for Automobile Lamborghini Esports team, ahead of Kieran Prendergast in the Brabham Esports, powered by Eau Rouge squad, with Michael Romandinis in 23rd. And last but by no means least, Ricardo Castroledo for VRS Coanda Esports, which are a powerhouse in the world of esports sim racing, so they'll be disappointed
Yeah.
to dominate the back row of the grid.
Yeah, but nice to have Commander here.
Yes.
Because they dipped the toes in a couple of times, haven't really committed fully to ACC, but it's really good to have them here, even if they are, back at the back of the field. But come on, not even a second back. It's nothing to frown about, that's for sure.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When you're racing at this level of competition, it's fractions of a tenth of a second that separate a great qualifying from a really disappointing time. But then we're going to carry that forward into a race that we're about to do. And this is where, unlike, and I mean this in the greatest respect to the GT Pro Series that we saw yesterday, there's a little bit more wiggle room for having a bad day and getting away with it.
Yeah.
Here, you lose a second in a lap, you clout a curb and run wide. That's going to be the end of a good opportunity for you down the drain. Such is the level.
The other thing that you will not be able to see if you're on the stream, but you will feel if you're in the arena, is it's hot. And you would not really choose. It's probably not hot for Mohammed Alif, but it is hot otherwise. Right, let's go through the grid once more. Schoninger and Pfeffer. Then Jordan Sherritt in the Ferrari, and David Tonitza, Chris Hartveld, we're going fast, Arthur Camara, Bastian Richer, and Dominic Blyer.
Gregor Schill, Danny Savini, and Daniel Amulo are 9, 10, 11. In 12, Tinko van der Velde from Matthias Tuskovic, Luca Lozio, and Nicola Hoburn are 14th and 15th.
I'm not sure our man could keep up because the two commanders at the back of the field have already driven off. We haven't quite got there yet, so good effort from. Well, if that would be a segue if that was real life.
For sure.
A bloke on a Segway with a camera going, come on.
The fastest Segway in the history of the world with smoke coming out of it, absolutely. And it's a 24-car grid, of course. And a reminder, while we're on the formation lap to everybody at home, please do get in touch with us on social media, hashtag SRO Esports, or drop us a comment in the comment section on YouTube if you have any questions about this competition, about sim racing, or anything associated with it. And Ben and I will do our very best to give you an answer without getting ourselves in trouble or being inaccurate, which is always difficult.
We will try, yes, absolutely. Jordan Sherritt there for Ferrari, South African, for the Works Ferrari team. We've got Works Ferrari teams, we've got Works Mercedes teams, we've got Works Lamborghini teams, we've got Works BMW teams, we've got semi-Works Porsche teams, and then basically everybody else, a privateer that have chosen the cars. So we've got a single Audi, and most of the other privateers have chosen Ferraris. Oh, and I missed the McLaren Veloce. McLaren Veloce is effectively a McLaren Works car as well.
And it's interesting, isn't it, to see the spread of manufacturers that we've got here. Mercedes, 1, 2 on the grid. Then it's the Italian Army with Sherritt and the Ferrari, the Lamborghini of Ferrari. Then the first BMW in 6th position. And away down we go. The highest Porsche is Danny Savini in 10th place. And as you say, the highest of the Audis is Tuskovic, 13th, and the sole McLaren, Luke Whitehead. We know he can pedal a virtual car exceptionally quick indeed, all the way down in 20th. Outright pace is one thing, Ben, but as we always see in these races, cars change over a stint.
Yeah.
Who's going to be strong at the start? Who's going to be strong at the end? Who's going to get the pit stop strategy clever?
No chance of rain. We just talked about rain yesterday because the circuit was flooding with massive rainstorms, but it's missed us this evening, giving us a lovely sunset for real here at Paul Ricard, and we'll see the same thing in the virtual world. The bollard goes bouncing already, and we haven't even got our 1 hour race underway. Let's not forget, we also get a pit stop in this 1 hour race, and they must put 1 litre of fuel in the car to register that pit stop, just to mix up the strategy a little bit.
Yeah, that pit window is a mandatory pit window, as you say. We've seen drivers in strife, actually, during that process, not completing the pit stop exactly how they should do, and the game takes issue with that one then, and that incurs penalties. So it's vital that not only do they execute the stop correctly, but they also get down pit road in time. So Dennis Schoninger now is winding the car, winding the field through the final few corners. We're about to go racing here in Le Castellet at the Circuit Paul Ricard for the second ever Sim Pro Series, part of the SRO Esports family of events. Dennis Schoninger is in effect, Ben, the pace car.
They all have to stay in their boxes. They are given a space in which they must adhere to keep this grid formation nice and clean. Nobody jumping or getting an advantage.
And as a driver, this feels like it lasts forever. Trying to balance everything, get everything warmed up. In the rules, you're not allowed to be aggressively braking and weaving, so you've got to do your warming up when you're in single file formation. But Tobias Pfeffer, we see him on the screen, we see him in the corner as well as the man that is going to lead this field in second position. Car number 4 there, the green flag waves, the racing is go, the SRO Esports Sim Pro Series is go. Dennis Schoninger gets a great launch from the lead, one of the Lamborghinis all the way out on the apron at the back of your shot as well. Pfeffer to the inside, last of the late breakers, light contact between the two race leaders, but they both keep it on the tarmac, and we've got drama further down as the audience cheers.
That was Tanitsa gaining an advantage by the two Mercedes, fighting each other out and getting the switchback and into the lead, and now he's going to be followed by a Ferrari, and that's Jordan Sherritt up as Pfeffer has been massively bullied off the circuit. He's going to lose huge positions, but great taking an advantage of that initial first corner. I'm sure we'll see it again. Tanitsa leads, Sherritt in second position, Hartveld in third. The best of the Mercedes is now only fourth with Schoninger.
Yeah, the 555 of Schoninger there, light contact I think it was, to the back of Tobias Pfeffer, which pushed him off the racetrack and down into 12th position. So a nightmare start for Tobias Pfeffer as Gregor Schill is looking to make up places as well in the BS Plus competition. BMW to the outside, down the back straight, but this bend is not where you need to be, as we're 3 wide further up.
Just getting a chance to see the different top speeds of all these drivers. Gregor Schill turns in, but Lemulo is already there, has to run wide. He might get mugged here also. Tobias Pfeffer down the inside, but can't quite fight a way through the first part of Le Beausset. May well try and claim the second part. Not quite close enough, a little bit of an overlap, but we still got an hour's worth of racing, boys. We don't need to do sprint race styling.
Yeah, we saw a frown on Gregor Schill's face there under the concentration. A mistake trying to find a way past the Lamborghini ahead makes him vulnerable to the cars behind. And if you're a driver in this race, the last man you need to see in your mirrors at this moment in time is Tobias Pfeffer, because he will be furious about that start, and Pfeffer has a lot of work to do.
Arthur Cameron's made a really good start, and the other BMW up to 5th position. So really, Gregor Schill lost out a bit on that first lap, and there is the recovering Tobias Pfeffer.
Yeah, so
very noticeable pink livery on that machine from the Unicorns of Love that have run that for the last couple of years and really stick out because of it.
And talking to a few of the Mercedes drivers pre-race as well, they're kind of quite content to be in traffic because the straight line speed of that car here at Paul Ricard is just not as strong as their rivals. So they benefit from the slipstream more than being in clear air, more than you would do under normal circumstances. So Pfeffer, yes, he'll be frustrated, but this is where he needs to be. He's got the opportunity to move forward in the next 57 minutes.
Let's have a look then again at the start. What happened between those two Mercedes, between Pfeffer and Schoninger? Schoninger is now 8th, Pfeffer is 12th. Race control will be looking at the incident as Pfeffer comes to the outside line, but I'm not sure that's the place to be. Pfeffer came from a long way back. Did he run deep into the corner? Kind of forced him off the track. They both ran wide. That allowed Tanitsa through. That allowed Sherritt through. They then came back onto the circuit. Where's the contact now? Oh, come on.
Yeah, so we just missed the end of that one when the 555 made light contact with the back of Tobias Pfeffer. There'll not really be any damage from that sort of rubbing his racing action, so both drivers should be relatively unimpeded going into it. But Danny Savini is a driver that's had a pretty solid start in the Jean Alesi Esports Porsche. Stayed out of trouble, not got himself into any dramas, and is running comfortably in the top 10. And if anything, having a look at Bastian Richter ahead. And here we go, this is riding on board with the 555. That's Tobias Pfeffer in front. Pfeffer's going to come to the left-hand side, and there we go, too late and quite the shunt behind.
So what do race control think about that? We will find out soon enough, but certainly pretty clear contact. A little kiss first, but then more of a contact to push Pfeffer wide, and now he's got work to do to get himself back through the pack and into a position where he can score points. Well, you get points all the way down to 15th position, so he is in the points, but it's not very many right now, and he would certainly be looking for a lot more than where he is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. As we've said so many times today, this is such a tight and competitive championship. You can't afford a bad weekend. You need to score big points every time you're on the racetrack because it's just too difficult to close that deficit down. If you have 2 or 3 point weekends and you expect to be a podium fighter, that's going to be almost impossible over the duration of the year to recover it. Meanwhile, Tobias Pfeffer in 12th position, but it's also worth noting that a little bit further up the field, Tinko van der Velde, great start, got that 53 into 7th place.
Little gaps forming between various cars, a big fight. It's up for the lead of the race. Tanitsa defending hugely from Scherer to side by side between Kamara and Schoninger. And Kamara's got through in the BMW. So Kamara up to 4th position now. Great work, but that was what I was watching. Tanitsa having to go super defensive and hugging the inside wall to stop Sherritt from finding an inside line into Signa.
So we're saying David Tanitsa, former Ferrari driver, is fighting hard against Jordan Sherritt, new Ferrari driver. This one in an Italian brand who are traditionally rivals with each other. So this one's got many layers of spice to it. And Tanitsa, remember, go back to Monza, had a nightmare weekend. So he needs a good result to get his championship started and to boost his confidence. But Jordan Sherritt has Chris Hartveld as well, teammate in the 57, 2 versus 1.
Tanitsa looking to the bottom left of his screen, looking therefore at the results so far. That is where it will tell him who's behind him and the gaps, and it's not very much. Jordan Sherritt with support also from Chris Hartveld, and we do have a penalty from race control. Schoninger in the 555 has been given a 10-second penalty.
Yeah, that's a big one. He'll be able to serve that one, of course, at his mandatory pit stop, so it's not he doesn't have to come down pit lane. It won't be something that's added to his time. He will get that one at his mandated pit stop. But Tanitsa now, after the squabble of just a lap ago, seems to be gapping the Ferrari of Sherritt, which is great news. We've seen that Lamborghini is very quick indeed, thank you very much, in a straight line. And what David Tanitsa needs to do is break the slipstream, going back down to Tobias Pfeffer, who continues his charge in 12th position. Pfeffer using the slipstream as much as possible, but as we've said, that Mercedes is just not quite as quick as some of his rivals in a straight line, and that's making Tobias Pfeffer's life very, very hard indeed. So here we come now into Senior. Very, very difficult car. You've got to make sure you stay within those bollards there. He does, Tobias Pfeffer, even though he's got a reduced aerodynamic load on the front of the car, courtesy of the BMW ahead of him. Tobias Pfeffer doing a great job to keep hold and keep in touch with the pack in front. And Jordan Sherritt now gone from 0.8 of a second all the way back up to the back of the Lamborghini of David Tanitsa. So Jordan Sherritt's on his toes and looking to charge forward, bringing Chris Hartveld with him as they drop Arta Camera to the tune of 1 second in 4th position. Camera having the Mercedes of Dennis Schoninger for company, with Dominic Blyer also looking to buy into this fight.
Fastest lap from Tanitsa. Then Chris Hartveld goes better. A 52.4 is the fastest lap that he's managed so far. It is really very close between those three. Then a tiny, tiny gap to Arta Camera. Schoninger we can take out of the equation for the moment with that 10-second penalty. He can serve that 10-second penalty in his pit stop, so he'll absorb it. But I mean, a 10-second gap from Schoninger is down in 20th position.
So that basically writes their strategy, doesn't it? Leave it all the way to the end of the pit window as late as possible to try to minimise the pain that you're going to get when you come back out of pit lane. We're looking back from Gregor Schill's BMW M Team BS competition car at that man Tobias Pfeffer. Pfeffer's not got an answer at this moment. He can't get alongside.
Looking back from the BMW M Team BS competition, team running that car, BS, such a massive support of ACC and all platforms really. And Schoninger, and again Ferrari and Lamborghini, and there's a touch between the two. Oh, Jordan Sherritt has to go wide off the road. Tanitsa was driving so defensively, and he comes back on, and he comes back on still ahead, just about, not quite. Side by side, is there more contact? There might be. Chris Hartveld fancies a go at this one. Hartveld looks to the outside, there is no space, and it is as it was. Oh, Jordan Sherritt. Payback perhaps. Tanitsa does get riled though, we've seen it before, he will not like that whatsoever. Race control are going to have to sort out which bit of contact should be punished.
Yeah, that was a little bit messy. Luckily for Tanitsa, he's got back on the racetrack, so he is in third position. Dominic Blyer's buying into the fight and earning some positions as well in the mayhem behind. He manages to get past Arthur Camera. Tinko van der Velde as well sneaks his way past Dennis Schoninger. So a change further down the running order, but David Tanitsa now will be mad. He'll be hearing in his ear from Alex, his team manager, to calm things down a little bit now. Just go a couple of laps, Ben. Let things settle down, because the worst thing you can do at this stage is get the red mist and make another issue.
And that is the job of the team manager now, to calm his driver down, to bring him back into the zone, to be the performing athlete that we know David Tanitsa is. A multiple esports F1 world champion and very, very strong. It was actually the, should have really won the precursor to this series, which was held in Spa, but for a small fault at the very end of the race with his rig, would you believe? We never had a fault with the rigs in the Fanatec Arena in 3 years, apart from Tanitsa possibly winning for Ferrari and losing out at the last moment. He's got a very fast Lamborghini underneath him when he's in the slipstream of that Ferrari, but he may have a bit of damage too, mayn't he?
Absolutely, there's quite a few firm contacts for David Tanitsa there, but it's not stopping him as he looks to the inside of Hartveld. Hartveld has the line covered, but Tanitsa can rotate the car better. Keys to the inside. David Tanitsa, can he stay alongside the Ferrari? Yes, he can. He rows it out of the racetrack. Applause from the crowd in the arena, and that is a fantastic move from David Tanitsa. One down, one, sir, left to go.
But Jordan Sherritt's got a good pace on him right now. He's put a little bit of a gap between the two of them. And I know Tanitsa and Hartveld obviously fighting, and that does slow you down, but looks strong, the Ferrari.
We know the Lamborghini and Ferrari are very, very similar in pace in the hands of these drivers, looking into practice and to qualify, and they're never separated by more than a tenth and change between them. So all this now is down to racecraft, using the slipstream, minimising the mistakes, and David Tanitsa will be very keen to get on to the back of Jordan Sherritt's car. Dominic Blyer, meanwhile, he's one of the drivers that benefited from the dramas to pick his way through cars all over the racetrack, squabbling for position, and Blyer in the Williams Esports machine will be very satisfied with the first portion of his race.
So Luca Lozio has been given a penalty for contact with Hopper, the 812 machine that actually sits in 24th position. You can't see him on our timing screen, but there was contact between them on lap 1, and so that's why he's got his 15-second penalty. Let's have a look at this again between Sherritt and Tanitsa. Two portions of this, quite a long replay, and they're already kissing down the straight.
Yeah, so that's a little bit aggressive, I think it's fair to say. Down the straight, then two cars into space for one, do not go. Out goes Jordan Sherritt. Tyres are mucky, the car's on the marbles. It's difficult for Sherritt to get the car back onto the racing line. You can see him struggling with the wheel and defending from Chris Hartveld, but here Ben's the big one. Not really any space there to make the move. Sherritt was a little bit opportunistic at best, let's be generous, but Tanitsa just about gets back on, and Arthur Camera now is in the hunt as well.
Race control will need to understand whether Jordan Sherritt turned in on David Tanitsa into senior, or whether Tanitsa, I don't know where Tanitsa could go, to be honest, in that first portion of contact. So I'm thinking, certainly the second part of contact, you can't blame anybody else but Jordan Sherritt. The first one could also be his fault as well. Even though he's on the outside, you can't turn in if a car's already there.
And I'm very grateful, that's why we're up here in the box, and we've got an army of people behind the scenes analysing the data, looking at it from all the angles, looking at the telemetry, and really getting into the meat of exactly what happened. So hopefully we'll find out soon enough if there are any penalisations and what they may be in a few moments' time while they go through the data. Tobias Pfeffer, by the way, is still in 11th position, still looking at the rear of Gregor Schill's number 90 machine. And for Tobias Pfeffer now, this is becoming quite important, because look at the gap between Schill and Daniel Savini ahead. That's starting to increase. Pfeffer is starting to get taken away from the battle ahead.
15 minutes of this race gone, so much action already, and we've still got 45 to go, including that pit stop. Pfeffer hasn't found a way past Schill, and yet both of them have lost time to Salvini in 9th. they've got a little bit of advantage on the next group at least.
And this could be Tobias Pfeffer's moment now. To the outside of Senior, we see the BMW kind of concede position, I think, there. So nice driving for Tobias Pfeffer. Intelligent driving, I think, from Gregor Schill to recognise that they're not helping each other fighting like this one. Gregor giving the position up, and now does Tobias Pfeffer have enough in the bank to chase down Danny Savini before that pit window sequence begins in about 10 minutes' time?
Fastest lap on that last lap from Chris Hartveld. But the slowest of the three was Jordan Sherritt, and now Tanitsa right back onto the tail, underneath that rear wing of the brand new Ferrari for ACC, for GT3 racing generally. And with the announcement and the release and the first race of the car in Monza came ACC's virtual car at the same time. So no waiting, none of this kind of, oh, well, now it's released into the real world, we'll build it in the virtual. They were concurrently together with the release and the build, and great to have this car, which is such a stunner of a car. I don't know if it looks Ferrari-like, but it is a beautiful car.
It really is, and sort of the knock-on effect to that one, Ben, of course, is because this is a new car in sim, it's a relatively new experience for the team.
Yeah.
They don't know it like the back of their hand like they did on the 488, so yes, they'll be on top of it. Yes, they will test it extensively and have all the data they need and have great drivers. But there's still a small element of being on the back foot, shall we say, compared to Lamborghini, that's been around for quite a while and has been in these situations more than once, shall we say.
Here's Tinko van Geveld right in the thick of things here, in effectively what seems to be a big long train all the way down to 9th position. The first 9 cars, yes, there's a little bit of gap between Hartveld and Camera, but nothing that a little half a slide wouldn't solve. And the 2 Williams-supported Mercedes-AMG cars running together, but of course the second of those cars, the 555, with that penalty looming. That's the car that finished 4th last time in Monza. That is the slightly favoured of the 2 Williams Esports cars, because the 53 didn't pick up any points. The number 5 did, and the number 5 is in 5th position. Okay, so actually doing quite well. Williams 5, 6, and 7th.
Yep, a little bit further down the running order, Mohamed Alif moves up 1 from Danilo Amulo, so into 12th position, and Luke Whitehead drops a spot in the Veloci McLaren down into 19th, just behind Daniel Santoro. Interestingly, our what's the word I'm looking for? Our qualified driver on site, Maciej Malinowski, down in 21st position, is also a Veloci driver. So that'll be interesting when they get together on circuit. Will Malinowski get past and possibly hold up the team that he races for on a day-to-day basis?
Jordan Sherritt has been handed a 10-second penalty for the contact with David Tunitsa. I think that's a right call from race control, mainly for the second bit of contact. Riled by the first, perhaps, and maybe that would have been a 5-second penalty if it was just that one, but 10 seconds, like we spoke about earlier, it will drop him down to, at the moment, down to 13th position. Still points for 13th spot, but certainly not the starring performance that we are at the moment witnessing from the Ferrari. And here comes Tunitsa to the outside. He doesn't really need to risk himself doing this. He could put himself in more harm than good. The team need to get onto him, really, and say, look, come on, we actually don't need to do this. He's got a 10-second penalty. You're now effectively leading, but he wants the inside line in Bose. Can't find a way through there. He was squeezed. He's going to take the second apex, though. He's got the inside line all the way around the outside for Jordan Sherritt. Sherritt's going to have to concede there. There's no space, and Tunitsa does it on the road. Oh, more contact. The 2 Ferraris have hit each other. Can you believe it?
Oh, I've got my arms literally in the air. I cannot. We were keeping such a focus on the Lamborghini and the Ferrari at the front of the field. Sadly, I think Chris Hartveld was doing exactly the same thing and straight in to the back of his teammates. So Jordan Sherritt's day is going very south, very quickly indeed. Let's have a look on the timing screen when it updates to see where he drops down to, courtesy of that contact. 14th position.
Oh.
You do not need to hit your teammate. That is rule number 1 in motor racing, and that's very unfortunate. Too many cars in a short space, lots happening, no malice in that whatsoever. It's just, sadly, these things do happen.
It was kind of loading, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like you would see in karting, the front car checked up, there was no space for the second car to react, and therefore the third car had even less space. But teammates knocking each other, it's critical #1 rule. And unfortunately, I'm not sure there was any way to avoid it. Chris Hartveld wiping his brow from the sweat that he's created. This is so intense, this racing. Look at the queue of cars. But that really has ruined Jordan Sherratt's day.
Yeah, that really is bad news. It's great news for David Tanitsa, though, because as you said during the move day, Ben, it is risky to put yourself in that position when you know your rival has a penalty. But Tanitsa, it's paid off massively. He's been riding on board with Artie Camera. There is the damaged Ferrari of Chris Hartveld ahead. Camera to the outside of Senior. Will he get the overlap? Will Hartveld fight this one or give up? There goes too wide into the flat right-hander. Hartveld holds the position. Camera drops back again. A little kiss between the two of them as well. But Artie Camera is not deterred. Keeps the inside line. Hartveld runs onto the slower outside line. A secondary contact as well. But just about Artie Camera gets the deal done. And Dominic Blyer is the next in the list.
Oh, I love Bose for those kind of moves. And really intelligent driving also from Camera to have half an elbow out. Not overly aggressive, but just controlling where the Ferrari was going and being able to do so without actually needing to use the nose of the car to knock him wide or anything. Just saying, I'm here, and if you turn in, you're going to make contact with me, but so therefore try to just back out of it. But I'm worried for Chris Hartveld. I'm worried for the top speed of that car now.
Yeah.
Has the contact with his teammate critically hurt that Ferrari?
Yeah, there's a lot of damage on that Ferrari, so let's have another look at the replay. What we're looking at here, that is car 57, that is Chris Hartveld that we spoke about. They're the two race leaders just at the front of your shot. David Tanitsa in the Lamborghini, the Ferrari to the outside, and this is, put yourself in the seat, Ben, of this driver. Oh, maybe that wasn't as easy as I thought it was. That is a very late.
Well, hang on. If that's the case, and you're watching it from that angle, like we've been throwing the book at the Ferrari, but was the Lamborghini actually braking harder than anybody expected? And the first Ferrari, Jordan Sherratt was able to predict it, but obviously people further back were not.
Yeah, that is a difficult. I'd love to see the telemetry on that one.
Yeah.
The end result is Chris Hartveld was, of course, the car that did the nerfing, and his teammate Jordan Sherratt now in 12th position, still with the 10-second penalty to go.
Awesome thing about sim racing, you can't get away with anything.
Yep.
There's so much data in all of these cars. We've got replays from infinite angles. We can look at the braking point versus the braking point from the previous lap and can make an informed decision. Now, we might see people at the head of this field just collecting penalties. The person with the least amount of penalties will win.
Yeah, you never know, it might go that way. Now, this is interesting. Dominic Blyer in the number 5 Williams Esports AMG Mercedes is closer than we have seen at any point in this race to our second and third position. There we go. There is the Williams Mercedes with the bright green front end. This is good from Dominic Blyer. This has been a very effective opening stint to this race, and he's carrying with him fellow Mercedes drivers Tinko van der Velde and Dennis Schoninger. I've got a feeling that Mercedes are in a prime seat here for the very least a conversation around those podium positions.
Well, they're keeping their noses, their big Mercedes noses, out of trouble, which is fantastic. There is Blyer. Obviously, Schoninger with the 10 seconds looming over him. It's going to be interesting to see how that they can recover in the second half of this race. We do have a drive-through penalty for Hubon in the 15 car. Haven't come up on my screen, so that might be from in-game.
And we've also got a penalty for Hopper as well, although that's gone away from the screen now, actually. So Leon Hopper, that penalty has gone away, but I don't know quite what that is for Hubon. It's a little bit too early for track limit infringements, one would imagine.
He had contact with Santoro on lap 2, according to our race control. Chris Hartveld with the slipstream. So it's the slipstream effect that's making the difference rather than the damage that we thought it was for the Ferrari. And look at the straight line speed. Hartveld back into second position with ease.
Yeah, absolutely. We had fear that Ferrari's carrying damage and might be in a little bit of difficulty, but Chris Hartveld put those fears very firmly to bed for that move. And Dominic Blyer now at the back of the shot. So Dominic Blyer in the green-nosed Mercedes fancies his chances against Artie Camera. He'll be the outside line for this next section of corners. Blyer keeps the nose on the rear quarter. He's trying to force the issue, but runs out of racetrack. And good defence there from Artie Camera to take away the line and opportunity. Blyer's in a great position because he's got a fellow Mercedes, fellow Williams driver in Tinko van der Velde behind him, so he knows he's not going to get in contact with his teammate. Ha ha ha, we've seen that one before. So let's see how that one unfolds. But Dominic Blyer at this moment in time seems to be the man on a mission.
Pit stops, the window is open. Schoninger goes for an early stop, I reckon, in comparison to when he would usually stop. The window is 20 minutes long. It's only been open for 5, but he decides to get his pit stop done now. And remember, it's a pit stop plus 10 seconds stationary for that penalty. Other cars in Hubon and Castro Ledo in the Kawanda Porsche at the back of shot.
So this is interesting. Remember, folks at home, that drivers are mandated to make a pit stop and put at least 1 litre of fuel in the car. So we're going to see the order change. And if you're at home wondering how we know when people have stopped, the little green marker next to their name signifies their pit stop has been completed, and the orange marker says that they've still got a mandatory stop to go. And Artie Camera will be desperate for this pit window now because he's going to get frustrated. He can't afford to defend the cars behind because that's giving away time to the leaders.
Arthur Camera. He's getting comfortable in his rig, looking to the rear, looking to see if he's under attack. He hasn't picked up a great slipstream from the Ferrari down the Mistral straight this time as the sun starts to set. But Blyer and Van der Velde were not quite close enough to attack. Such a different experience for so many of these drivers from what they're used to, having everything so finely tuned at home for how they can perform at their best. They'll do their very best to finely tune the rigs that we have here in the Fanatec Arena, but it still won't quite be what they're used to.
Interesting to see the different lines employed by Artie Camera as well. Exactly the same as last time. He seems to be a little bit further away from the apex in the middle of the corner, then squares it off to try and get the run and the acceleration down the straight. For now, that's working, but it is giving Dominic Blyer ideas. He's showing his nose a few times in that Mercedes. If he can get a nose up the inside and force the issue, then that is going to be a great opportunity for Dominic Blyer. But so far, it is currently Chris Hartveld is the man who's the cork in the bottle for this lead battle.
So incident between car 57 and car 37 on lap 10. That is the 2 Ferraris crashing into each other, has been deemed a racing incident. That's fair enough if you're only investigating those 2 cars. But if you're looking at it from another point of view, then okay, I think there's a different argument to that, but I'm not going to bring it up because I'll be things will thrown at me by various Lamborghini people. But fair enough, 57 and 37 racing incident, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is a relief, actually, I would imagine, for the team. There's a little bit of confusion because I'm seeing a 10-second time against...
Yeah, that's
that was
earlier.
For the earlier incident, of course it was, as this little fight continues to rage. And Chris Hartveld, he's going to be nervous at this stage because we've got the pit window. The undercut is very, very real here at Paul Ricard in this race. We saw it yesterday in the GT Pro, and Hartveld is hurting for lap time at this moment in time. So he's second at the moment and defending well, but I think he's going to be vulnerable to those behind. Danilo Santoro that we're looking at now in the 313 Lamborghini, another one of the Automobile Lamborghini eSport team drivers. Santoro was very much in the bottom end of the pack during qualification, but he's had a relatively steady but strong progress through the field. But Danilo Santoro, don't forget, has not made his stop, so will no doubt give away some of those places later on.
Arthur Camera for BS Competition, BMW M Team, into the pits from second position, giving away his third spot, giving away that slipstream from Chris Hartveld. Of course, the big BMW is punching a hole in the air for Blyer and Van der Velde behind as well, so he puts himself on a new bit of tarmac once he comes out onto circuit. I wonder where he will come out, because the pit stop. I think he might come out into a bit of traffic, you know.
And that could be critical for Arta Camera. If he comes out in the traffic and they're not running at the same pace he's capable of running in clean air, that's going to slow down his progression and open a window of opportunity for the cars that were around him before he made that mandatory pit stop, of which, by the way, 10 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock. So if you're Tinko van der Velde, now's the time to really get the foot down on Dominic Blyer and see if they can jump him during this cycle.
Yeah, clear track ahead. Last lap of 53.2 from Blyer. Let's see what he can manage with a bit more clear track on this one, although they have quickly caught up to Chris Hartveld, haven't they? It's not that much clear track because Hartveld's not having a very strong lap. Whether he's made a mistake or not.
I think, Ben, that Ferrari seems to be struggling now. You would have expected him to have cleared these Mercedes over the last 5-10 minutes or so, but apart from that excellent overtake to retake second position, Hartveld is struggling as Dominic Blyer goes a little bit deep. Luckily, Van der Velde is in the same family of teams, so he's not going to do anything too risky, but maybe it's going to be time for a phone call to Dominic Blyer and say, Tinko's faster than you.
Oh, the camera came into 16 seconds of space, so I was completely wrong as Chris Hartveld comes into the pits from second position. Meanwhile, Tinitza still bangs in those fast laps. Nobody can really match the Lamborghini's pace, even though he's had a bit of contact. Jordan Sherritt's got a yellow flag to his name. Why has he got a yellow flag to his name? I think that's just a coming into the pits, perhaps. Got a few Ferraris in the pits, both the works Ferraris and Mohammed Alif from 9th position and Diana from 11th position.
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting. Van der Velde down pit road, Sherritt down pit road. Bit risky, I think, strategy from Jordan Sherritt there because maybe he's carrying damage, maybe lap time is not coming as freely in that car at this moment in time. So he is vulnerable. We will keep our eye on that one as the pit window cycle comes to its conclusion. Look at it, Daniel Savini now for SRO Esports in the highest place of the Porsches currently in this race in 19th position. Savini will be a little bit frustrated about his race, although he's giving Gregor Schill plenty to think about in their little squabble, 18th and 19th.
You could never tell that Salvini races for SRO Esports, could you, with the livery?
No, not at all. It's very discreet.
Bastien Ricciardo, we haven't spoken too much about him, down in 16th position, has made his pit stop. He's got Arta Camera just 0.2 of a second ahead of him. And here's Camera with a bit of contact with the Ferrari. Now, what Ferrari is that? That is Chris Hartveld back out of the pits behind Camera.
So that's exactly the problem that you've got. If you come into off of the sequence or you come into traffic, you're going to get held up. And unfortunately for Hartveld, yet more contact. They build them strong in Ferrari, and they need to because Hartveld's bouncing off drivers through no fault of his own or not. Quite a lot in this race. And look at the gap, Ben, that's now given.
Where's Bastien Ricciardo come from? We've got Camera, then Ricciardo, Hartveld, who we've already seen at the head of the field. Van der Velde is behind Hartveld, as you would expect. Then Gregor Schill, then Salvini. These are all in the same queue of cars. But Ricciardo was nowhere in the first stint, and somehow, through his pit stop strategy, has got himself right in the mix.
And that just goes to show staying out of trouble, keeping neat and tidy can pay massive rewards. And we know that Bastien Ricciardo is a fast driver. We know he knows how to compete in SRO competition. And as you say, the number 4 team machine, the Mercedes-AMG Esports team Unicorns of Love driver, is now very, very much in the conversation for the big positions as we see many of our remaining race leaders get down pit road and serve their mandated stop.
Well, Lamborghini as a club have come out in force, haven't they? Right, they've decided that this is the lap and they're all done the same thing. But we have a real race on our hands here. Look at this. Chris Hartveld, despite, oh no, he didn't have a penalty. It's Jordan Sherritt that had a penalty and he's down in 21st. So he is out of the game right now, I'm afraid. But this is mighty. Camera, Ricciardo, Hartveld, Van der Velde, and Schill in there as well. So Schill's strategy worked out well for him. Where does Tinitza come out in all of this? Is that Tinitza in the back of shot?
No, Tinitza's already come out of pit lane,
out.
so he's very much checked out at the front of the field. Second on track, that will become first when Dominic Blyer serves his pit stop in the next 6 minutes and 30 seconds or so. But Chris Hartveld, I worried when he came down pit lane that he was a bit too early and might put him in a dangerous position. He'd lost one place to Bastien Ricciardo and to Arta Camera, but that's actually not worked out too bad. The question is, though, in this little battle pack, you've put yourself into the danger zone, and you know very well, Ben, from what many of the races we've commentated together, if you're in that battle pack, it's not only your own mistakes you need to worry about, it's getting wrapped up in somebody else's bother.
And you can't just bang in the lap times
No.
like you would do, like Tanitsa has the ability to do 6 seconds up the road from this. So Tanitsa is our leader once Blyer comes into the pits. Camera 6 seconds back, and then the rest of the top 10 behind Camera, all of these cars, all trying to get past Arta Camera. Really has mixed things up and brought things together after those pit stops. I have to say, the race yesterday in the Pro Series was fantastic around this Paul Ricard circuit, and we're being served up another really good race. It's providing epic action.
Yep, you can always trust SRO Esports to put sim racing in a very, very positive light, and these professional pro sim racing drivers once again are absolutely pushing to their limit as Dominic Blyer comes down pit road. But I do have a question from social media.
Hang on, just before we do that, where's Blyer going to come out into this massive queue of cars? Is he going to be at the back of it?
I think Blyer came in 4th position, if memory serves me correct. Sorry, was in 4th position before the cycle started.
Well, there's Tanitsa in the backer shot. Here at the queue, here's the train. There's going to be no space for him. Oh, he's at the back of the train. Wow, he's lost some time. And at the back of it, so that really hasn't worked out for the Williams team whatsoever. They had 3 cars in a row in the top 5, and now Van der Velde is in 5th position. The number 5, well, Blyer, therefore, yes. So Blyer is in 9th position, and Schoninger, with that penalty, is in 12th.
Yeah,
having taken that penalty, sorry.
That's not worked out well at all, but for Tobias Pfeffer it has. Remember, he was struggling in 12th position, now moves up into 8th place. A drive-through penalty as well for Jordan Sherratt, so I'm not quite sure what that involves. We'll find out when race control ping us a message in a moment, but Jordan Sherratt, you know, sometimes when you think I've travelled a long, long way to go motor racing and it's just not your day.
Today's the day for that.
Absolutely. We'll get back to the social media question in a minute because the action's not letting up on track as Gregor Schill now on the defensive, and there is Danny Savini. We said he had a good drive in 9th. He's now in 7th and looking to try and find a way past the BMW. Looks to the outside, no room doing. We'll look to the inside. Can he get the BMW turned on the... Sorry, can he get the Porsche turned to the inside? Not quite, but Daniel Savini on a charge in 7th. Gregor Schill is the man under pressure.
Bastian Richter really has had a fantastic strategy to elevate himself up into 3rd position, would you believe? Chris Hartwell is going to be pushing him, and we're hearing in our ears that Sherratt's got a drive-through for track limits. You must have really done something bad to get a drive-through instantly.
Absolutely, especially when you didn't get a drive-through for contact. So that really it's really not working out so well. And sometimes we saw this last time with Lamborghini and David Tanitsa. You just have a bad day at the office and it keeps compounding itself.
It's how unfriendly the ACC race direction is. Obviously,
yes,
they are not humans, and the humans are much nicer than the computer. Drive-through penalty awarded by the game. And I always think that the track limits rules within this ACC platform are very fair. You can go off track, and as long as you don't make a massive difference out of it, then it's all okay. You have to make a massive difference out of it to find yourself with a drive-through penalty. And Jordan Sherratt, 20th position, out the points, drive-through penalty. Owen just bangs in the fastest lap of the race, just to show what he could do if he hadn't had so much bad luck.
Yep, now somebody who's not had bad luck, but a very tenacious drive indeed at this stage is this man, Bastian Richter, in the Mercedes AMG Esports team Unicorn of Love. 3rd position at this moment in time, but now charging up to the back of Arta Camera's BMW. Camera keeps the inside line, which is his right to defend as the lead car. Bastian Richter decides not worth going 2 by 2 into the corner, so drops back in to the slipstream again. He'll trail the BMW all the way through the right-hander as Daniel Savini further down the running order does get the deal done before we turn into Senior. So great drive from Daniel Savini so far, but Bastian Richter on a charge, but he's got Chris Hartwell, a frustrated Chris Hartwell for company, and Tinko van der Velde parachuted in to the Williams team for this round and showing exactly why he's a valuable addition to that team.
The pressure that these guys must be feeling in this battle pack must be Absolutely insane. Bastian Richard looks pretty chilled behind the wheel, and so awesome to be able to see his face and see how he looks, because even in a real race situation, the helmets cover those kind of expressions. Further back, Salvini trying to find a way past Pfeffer, or is that Pfeffer recovering?
Yeah, that's Tobias Pfeffer moving one more spot up the grid into 7th place. So Danny Savini loses one. Tobias Pfeffer is the recipient of that position. So the recovery drive continues for Tobias Pfeffer. Remember, he is one of the drivers we thoroughly expect to be a championship challenger over the course of this 5-round season. And he's recovering in very fine style in the number 4.
And do you know what the characteristics of a champion are? This is one thing that goes across the board in motorsport. I'd say it a lot in WRC, because it's about the bad days. It's not about the good days. How do you maximize a bad day? That's what wins you the championship, not necessarily the good days where you take the full maximum points, because you always in motorsport will have both. You can't just have good days. And actually, most of the time, you have more worse days than good days. So Pfeffer, 7th, using that German calm mentality, even though he's only 18 years old, to not get ruffled by those issues earlier on, just get head down and do as much as you possibly can. And 7th is already very mighty.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominic Blyer now in the green-nosed Mercedes under a lot of pressure. The SRO Esports car of Savini gets the job done. And then for company, just behind, we've got Mohamed Alif in the number 12 Ferrari. Alif, another driver, being a little bit quieter in the opening stage, going about his business, picking off drivers, picking up results. And now it's the Ferrari's turn to have a go at the Williams Mercedes ahead. But he's not quite on contention just yet, as Savini's the man under the most pressure in this little battle pack.
As we have to do a bit of social media, I'm just going to write you a message, Paul, to say, do you think, this is a question from me, that these online races are more well-behaved on-site than online?
In on-site, yes, because online, everybody's a keyboard warrior, everybody's Mike Tyson in strength, everybody's 6 foot tall and built like the proverbial outside toilet. On-site, if you get in contact with somebody, you've got to walk past that person. You've got to probably go to the same place to grab a coffee and nip to the loo. You cannot. You've got to behave yourself. You're on show, you're on parade. And I think these drivers, for the most part, recognise that one, and they want to improve and lift sim racing as a whole. And the only way to do that is in these big events, put on an entertaining show. And nice question, Ben, by the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can come again.
That was an official social media tweet that I just thought I'd fast track and not write.
Fantastic.
There you go. So we've ticked one of those off the list. I'm sure you've got lots of questions for us, so please fire away. 18 minutes remaining in this race. Chris Hartveld, 4th position now. Big battle further back. 3 wide. Blyer in the middle. Alif on the outside and Salvini on the inside. Alif goes round and gets 2. Incredible stuff from our Asian representative.
Yeah, that gets a round of applause from the audience, and rightly so. Mohamed Alif, lick the stamp and send it, gets the job done. Fantastic stuff, very brave, very technical, very precise, and Mohamed Alif takes that position away. By the way, going down to Chris Hartveld, he's still trying to find a way past Bastian Richter, still trying to find a way to defend from Tinko van der Velde, so Hartveld is in very much a Mercedes AMG sandwich, and that is... that one's not going to finish like this in 17 and a half minutes, Ben.
He's got to be intelligent. He's got to think, where can I overtake cleanly without offering up an opportunity for Tinko van der Velde to get a way past? Look at this. Tobias Pfeffer drives cleanly past Gregor Schill up to 6th position. This is a wonderful drive. It really is. And, okay, he could have been out front and dominated this race, and we would never have seen him. Like we're not seeing Tunitsa very much, and that would have been it. But it's the method, it's the measure of the man to be spun around down into 15th position and get yourself back up into the top 6. Yep. Stunning drive, and we'll remember this. If he wins the championship, we'll have to remember these passes at Paul Ricard in the dying 15 minutes of the race, because that is what's making him. And how far away is he from the lead of the race? 11 seconds. It's unlikely. But Tunitsa is 8 seconds up the road of anybody else. Pfeffer could get himself into runner-up spot here.
Yeah, absolutely. As my grandma always used to say, bless her, the making of a person is when you judge them on their worst, not their best. And if this is a bad day in the office for Tobias Pfeffer, then he's got a very strong season in front of him. We're looking, by the way, at Dominic Blyer, who's also had his fair share of dramas, it has to be said, in this race, and he's doing a solid job to hold on to that 9th position as he goes to the inside now. So Muhammad Ali on the outside line. Pfeffer throws the car down the inside. A little bit of trading paint, loss of wing mirrors, I am sure, and that is job done for the Williams Esports driver. Pfeffer up into 8th.
I love how fair this racing is. Somebody off the road just ahead of those two, by the way. Not quite sure if that was Greg or Schill making a mistake. We'll find out when he comes towards the line. I think it was, you know. And this is the battle for 2nd position on the rear wing, or overlooking the rear wing of Bastian Richter.
Yeah, flash of the lights, just to try his very best to put the car ahead off of his stride. But Chris Hartveld, you can try these tactics, but Bastian Richter was not born yesterday. He's been here, he's done this many times before, and he's currently holding firm in the number 14 machine, 3rd position. In fact, if anything, that's pushing Hartveld into the grasp of Van der Velde behind. So Hartveld's got to be careful now. He's not got to concentrate too much on dislodging the concentration of the Unicorns Love car ahead. He's got to be strong and committed, because there's only 15 minutes left and the light is rapidly fading at Paul Ricard.
This is not done. David Tunitsa leads by 8 seconds over Arthur Camara, who has a slight advantage now over Bastian Richter, because Richter's really focusing on Hartveld and Van der Velde behind. Then there's a gap, but not a very big gap any longer, to Tobias Pfeffer. On his own, able to get his head down, to get some laps in, watching these three up ahead, fighting over the same inch of tarmac. And again, they're going to go side by side into Signa.
That was clever from Hartveld, a dummy at first and then committed once again. Gets the job done, well done, thank you very much. Tinko van der Velde takes advantage as well. Richter tries to get the car to the inside line. He's got a good rotation at this stage, but he's going to run out of road. And there we see a little bit of a run wide for van der Velde. No dramas there. Tinko van der Velde and Chris Hartveld make one move in one corner.
Do you think that was Ferrari saying, you've got to do it now because Pfeffer's coming, you cannot be held up any longer?
Absolutely, and I think Tobias Pfeffer's not physically rubbing his hands together because he'll be heading for an accident very quickly, but he is mentally rubbing his hands together because look, Ben, look at the back of this shot when it comes in the screen. Tobias Pfeffer now is part of this fight. He's not an interested observer, he's in it.
I think you could rub your hands quite a lot down the Mistral Straight.
Force feedback might have something to say about that one. You may very well go see sorry. But that's really interesting, isn't it? Just see one move, one corner, one bit of drama, and Tobias Pfeffer has just dug around and found 2 seconds in a click. It is straight into it.
It's going to be an unbelievable performance. He's got a couple more cars to get past to get himself up onto the podium. Can't believe it if he manages that. Everybody else will just be looking, going, how?
But racing, real or virtual, is irrelevant. It's most of the battle for a driver is the confidence gain. Tobias Pfeffer knows he's fast, he can see he's fast. He knows he can overtake because he's done it several times at different corners. He's the man carrying the confidence at this stage, so I would not bet against Tobias Pfeffer in these final 12 and a bit minutes.
Here's Jordan Sherritt, remember him? Down in 23rd position, just set another fastest lap of the race. 52.1 is now his performance. He's going to be thoroughly disappointed by the end of today. If he had had all that bad luck at the start, then maybe he could have done a Pfeffer, but unfortunately it has been Pfeffered across the whole of the race. Sorry, that was not funny, Tobias, I know.
It was worth a try though, so congrats for points for effort.
It took me about half a minute to work out why his nickname was Salty.
Excellent. Let's have a look now at Danilo Santoro. That's the other of the Lamborghini. Santoro's going to come away with this one with a few questions to ask himself. His teammates walking away from things at the front of the field, and Danilo's mired down in 15th position and struggling to find a way past our newcomer, Giovanni Diana, in 14th. So that's going to be some analysis.
Right then, let's go on board with David Tunitsa. Let's try and see how he does this. In the inset, such a composed character when he comes into the arena. I mean, he's a tall character, he's an imposing character. He comes in with a certain confidence, but not arrogance. And he's able to carry so much speed into the apexes. His lowest speed was in the second apex there, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing about David Tanitsa. He's a smooth driver, he's a confident driver. Just watch how he's placing the car now. He's looking up the road through his screen. He's trying to work out not where he is now, but where he wants to be in a few hundred metres' time. That's critical when you get to this part of the racetrack. This is the longest straight on the calendar, and the longest straight, of course, at Paul Ricard, the Mistral Straight. He's having a quick look around him, checking his dials, checking all the information, seeing where he is relative to his rivals, maybe receiving a message from his team manager as well in his ear, because this is a good communication point. And then Senior, maximum commitment, turning, one smooth motion. Make sure you don't go over those bollards there on the left-hand side. Hard braking down in a boost lane now. Use the inside line, roll the car, let it breathe to the outside of the racetrack. Square off the corner, hard back on the gas, use the curb, use all the racetrack on the outside line. Bring the car straight to the right-hand side. Brake in a straight line, balance the car on the brake and the throttle. Just gently eke it in. Use all the racetrack again. Hard on the throttle now. He's looking up, heads up. He's looking into the distance. He's making sure he hits those markers absolutely perfectly. Keep the car nice and tight. Bring it to the left-hand side. Hard on the brakes, not using all of the racetrack, notably. And then through the final turn, scrabbling for grip and off once again to do that for another 10 minutes before you can get out very sweaty, shake my hand and receive a trophy.
I loved, and that, by the way, was a lap just a tenth of a second off his fastest lap of the race so far. I loved how little movement there was in the steering wheel. It went from the outside, and it's the same with the pro drivers in this real race that's happening, the 6 hours of Paul Ricard happening right now on the real circuit. The less work they do with the wheel, the faster they seem to be, or the more fast, I was about to say. It is incredible how the car is moving around a lot. And there's so much dynamicism in the car, but actually in the wheel, it's very, very smooth.
Anybody who's done any go-karting at home, powered go-karting, knows most of your steering is not done with the wheel. It's not big, huge seesaw at the wheel, correcting slides. Sliding is poison to lap time. You want to be smooth, you want to be economic with your movements, you want to do it, make the car do the work, not you as the driver. And again, set up, confidence and experience all allow David Tanitsa to access that beautifully, as we saw in that onboard.
Yeah, it's about that rotation, isn't it? The car rotates as the weight transfer moves forward and comes off the rear of the car. You have more grip at the front, less grip at the rear, and that helps the car rotate without the need for asking something from the front wheel. Side by side, Alif and Gregor Schill through Senior, now towards Le Bourset. And Schill holds on to his 8th position spot for the moment, but Alif has looked really very, very strong.
I'm going to do this one quickly, Ben, because it's been so frantic on track that we've not had chance. I have a couple of questions. I'm going to fire one from Joel Conte. Joel, thank you for submitting your question. Can you feel the tension of the race between the drivers behind your shoulders? You can smell the tension. You can feel it. It's everywhere, like any live sporting event, Ben, isn't it? You watch a football match, let's say, on television, but then you go to the stadium. It's exactly the same kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we could definitely feel the tension before the start of the race. Once they're in their zone, once they're in their rigs, they are so calm. The excitement, what I do love about the arena style that we have is the excitement comes from the crowd. The great overtakes are applauded. You never see, well, Formula One pretend by putting some sound effects on their broadcast. You rarely see that in a really live motorsports event until the end, where everyone cheers. But for an overtake, like a kill, it's really cool.
Yeah, it really is. I have one more quick question from the same person, from Joel Conte. This is a fun one. I'm looking forward to watching you squirm to this question. Who's the I'm going to look at you. If we could put picture in picture, please, for the commentators for this one. Who's the faster on the simulator between the two of us?
Neither of us have raced each other, so...
But I've seen you race.
Yes, this is true. I have a simulator at home. I have a very great Fanatec rig. Haven't used it very much. Was invited once to a Lamborghini race and was 2 laps down, I think, by the end of it. I think you're definitely faster.
And I also remember that you even, in true racing driver style, told me why you wouldn't be competitive before doing the race.
Get the
racing driver excuses in. I don't recall what they were.
Probably because I was really bad.
Yeah, well, you didn't use that one. There was mitigating circumstances. But thank you, Joel, so much for your questions. We really appreciate it. And if we get any time, we'll fire in a few more answers before we end the show tonight.
So the pit stop really helped Bastian Richter. Got him up into third position, but actually now we're relying fully back on pace again. Richard fading a little bit. Pfeffer's gone past. Van der Velde's gone past, and Blyer trying to get past as well. So whatever they did, it was a really, really good strategy. How they managed to jump that many cars.
Yep, absolutely. And let's not forget that Bastian Richter is second coming into this race before qualification in the overall standings, or the team is, in the Mercedes-AMG Esports team, Unicorns of Love. So it's critical for Richter to get a strong result for his team. He's in the car in place of Tobias Grönwald, who had that second position last time out at Monza. So they're looking to bank big points.
That's a hard set of boots to fill,
really
though, isn't it? Because to Tobias Grönwald, one of the very biggest stars in ACC, here, have his car and see if you can get some points for him. Okay.
And that's the thing. I mean, we talked about this at the start of the show, Ben, about how cool it is that the manufacturers and teams are involved. But one thing we've never touched on, just bear in mind, how much pressure is involved in that. Unicorns of Love have got a great fan base in sim racing. The Mercedes team, the AMG Mercedes team, needs no introduction. That's a lot of pressure on young shoulders.
Bastian going defensive. I think there's a battle perhaps as well just ahead of them. Hartwell under pressure from Van der Velde and Pfeffer. Not quite close enough. Oh, and it is side by side between Richter and Blyer. Blyer to the outside, Richter on the inside line, trying to hold that inside line, trying to claim those apexes. He's positioned himself very well there. Holds on to the position. That is good defensive driving. Slow the two of them up and invite Gregor Schill to the party. But Blyer needs to think again as to how he might clear this Unicorns of Love Mercedes, and I'm sure a big rivalry between Williams and Unicorns of Love, because they are using the same piece of equipment. They are part of the Mercedes AMG family. No, not there. If you're going to do there, you're going to cannon into the side of somebody. Yeah,
you've got to be 100% alongside and have the faith and commitment of your rival to make a move past there. Here's a rare sight that we've not seen much of. That is David Tanitzer, our race leader. Alex Vitero, that we see in screen there, is acting as the team manager and engineer outside our very commentary box window. So they've got all the data and the information on the laptop. They're talking to David. They're feeding him information. But for Alex, it's been a fairly straightforward for the last 45 minutes. Go on the radio, keep doing what you're doing, son, and come off the radio.
Had a little bit of an onslaught, didn't he, in the first half of the race with those two pesky Ferraris crawling all over the back of him, but it's been pretty plain sailing since he got rid of Sherratt and Hartwell. Really, the BMWs weren't quite the match today of Tanitzer and the Lamborghini, and I have to say, I think Arthur Camara should come away from this incredibly happy with a second position if it stays as it is. He's got Hartwell about a second down the road from him, but Hartwell really is occupied with the two Mercedes behind him, and that's the focus, I think, in just holding on to third position.
Speaking of two Mercedes, here we go again. Bastian Richter to the inside, to the outside, Dominic Blyer. Blyer turns in a little bit early, makes light contact. Both drivers go to say hello to the fans in the grandstand, then get back on to the racetrack. But Bastian Richter, that's closer than he would like it to be, with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. And I'm sensing now from Dominic Blyer, I don't want to say desperation because that's the wrong word, but an urgency to try and find a way past.
Well, yeah, because we've only got 2.5 minutes left. And every position means points in the top 15. And that might become critical by the end of the season.
But what you don't want to do, fighting for a few extra points and throw the car off the racetrack, is Tobias Pfeffer now. Side by side, Pfeffer and Van der Velde. This is 4th and 5th position. Tobias Pfeffer doesn't have the launch off the corner. Straight back into the slipstream for the rundown into the first turn. Will he be close enough? Van der Velde covers the inside line, but then Tobias Pfeffer has the ideal line. A little bit braver on the brakes. Doesn't quite manage to keep it going. But Tobias Pfeffer's had the drive of his life, and he's not done yet. That
was very wise driving from Pfeffer, as we've seen all day. He had the overlap on the outside, but knew that it was just the door was going to be shut on him. And Pfeffer, his progress has been stilted somewhat, but if he could get past Van der Velde, that would put him up into 4th position. I predicted he might get a podium, and he isn't that far away, but there isn't that long to go.
A very quick social moment, very, very fast one from Frederic Guidonia. Apologies if that pronunciation is wrong. Where is going to be the next round? Very quickly, that'll be the 2nd of July at Spa.
Spa-Francorchamps, the crowd strike. 24 hours of Spa, and we will have our Pro Series race sometime on Friday afternoon, I think, and then this Sim Pro will happen during the 24-hour race on Saturday evening. A massive festival atmosphere. If you live anywhere near Spa-Francorchamps, make sure you come down and join us in the arena, because it's going to be so much fun. And Blyer now past Richter. He's managed to do it nice and cleanly through Senior and gets an extra point for the team.
Yeah, good stuff from Dominic Blyer in the very noticeable bright green-nosed Williams Esports Mercedes. But David Tanitsa, the front of the field for Lamborghini Esports team, dominated after the dramas of the opening few laps, after the dramas and the onslaught from the two Ferraris. He's got the race lead and absolutely run with it. 12.6 seconds to the good at the front of the field.
One more lap then. We're on our final lap. Can Pfeffer find any more space to get himself up into a podium spot? It doesn't really matter if he doesn't. He's already had an incredible comeback from that spin on lap 1. Mohamed Alif looking around the rear end of the big BMW of Gregor Schill to try and find 8th position on this final lap. So many cars still so close to their rivals. It has been a stunning race. I really have to say the 2 races that we've had in our Fanatec Arena in Paul Ricard have been the best in 3 years that this arena has ever seen. Competitive, respectful racing on the most part, and great reliability from the entries. All of our 24 drivers are still on the circuit from this race, nobody bailing out. And we saw the same actually in our Pro Series yesterday as well. Tinko van der Velde, one last chance to get himself onto the podium. Has he got an opportunity here against Chris Harvelt in the Ferrari? One last time up to Signet. There is a back marker ahead of them, or no, sorry, that's out the camera ahead of them. No space through there. But now Tinko van der Velde needs to do that classic Bose move of hold the apex. If he really doesn't do this particularly well, Tobias Pfeffer might try and go through. No, Tobias! No, no, no! And Pfeffer stops to let the Williams guy go past, but he can't let him do it for too long because I think Blyer's going to come past him soon.
So here we go for the final time, accelerating to the line. David Tanitsa for the Automobili Lamborghini Esports team takes a dominant victory at Paul Ricard in the SRO Esports Sim Pro Series. Crosses the line, a sigh, a close of the eyes. That was redemption that David Tanitsa needed. And further down the field,
it's chaos.
Yeah, it's absolute chaos. Artie Cameron in second, Chris Harvelt in third, and Dominic Blyer at the death gets 4th position from Tinko van der Velde. Tobias Pfeffer loses one at the line in 6th, and Bastian Richter just ahead.
And do you know why that is? Is because Blyer has gained 2 positions because Pfeffer was trying to give Tinko van der Velde a position back. So Blyer moves himself up into 4th position. He loses... Pfeffer loses 2 spots, Van der Velde loses 1. And I have to say, Paul Jeffrey is going to have to work hard to get a little bit of emotion out of Tanitsa, because that just seems to just be relief more than anything else. Now we see the large Italian smiling, wiping his brow. They've worked so hard in this arena. It is so warm. And Jordan Sherritt now completes his race down in 20th spot. What could have been for Ferrari. Harvelt getting a podium, but really Sherritt should have been up there as well. And it is going to be a Lamborghini, BMW, Ferrari podium. No Mercedes on the podium. I have to say credit to Tobias Pfeffer for the respect that he showed Van der Velde by basically parking up and allowing Blyer to get through. He's lost a position there, but he's one of my drivers of the day. I'm sure you guys can comment on our SRO Esports feed as to who you think has driven so very well. Here is the provisional result then. Tanitsa, Camera, Harvelt, the top 3. The best of the Mercedes, Dominic Blyer ahead of Van der Velde, Pfeffer, Richter down in 7th, and then Gregor Schill 8th. Mohamed Alif in 9th spot, and Daniel Salvini, the first of the Porsches, rounding out the top 10. Then it's Lemulio Schoninger with penalty in 12th position. Malinowski, the on-site qualifier, 13th spot. Great work from him. Santoro, Diana, Prendergast, Romanidis, Luke Whitehead have an inconspicuous day for McLaren Veloce down in 18th. Lozio, and then the penalised Sherritt, Hublon, Tikchovic, Upper and Castro Ledo with 2 drive-through penalties down in 24th position. Right then, let's get into the arena. Well, I'm in the arena, but let's get over to Paul Jeffrey, who has our winner. Have you got a smile from David Tunitsa?
We have indeed. Thank you very much, Ben. And David Tunitsa, winner of round 2. You had drama, overtakes, contact, excitement. Talk to me about it from your point of view.
Very tough race, definitely. Almost happened the same that happened in the sprint race, but luckily we managed to get the win this time. At the start, I think in the first corners it was very opportunistic to get that switchback move, to get the first position. I think that was the key of our win today. If I didn't manage to do that switchback, I would have been surely not in P1, and I'm pretty sure about it.
So we saw the opening instant. You had 2 Ferraris snapping at heel, and Ferrari's a team that you know all about from your career. Talk to me about the contact and the drama. How did you read that one from your point of view?
Of course, I have to watch the replay, but from my point of view, at the end of the main straight, I think we had a little tap. Jordan went on the outside. He closed on the inside very aggressively. So at that point, my wheel was literally straight. So I think I was not doing anything wrong. But then after that, I hit from behind. I lost 2 positions, and after he received 10 seconds of penalty, I said, okay, I'm going to stay behind him. But unfortunately, another contact, which I have to watch again because I really don't understand what happened, as I was just braking and I got hit, so I want to see the replay, of course, before saying anything.
So was Alex saying anything in your ear when you went down to 3rd position, like stay calm, just stick behind? How do you cope with it, and what does the team say to help you refocus?
Well, immediately after the contact, he didn't say anything because we made clear that I don't want any communication during the race, as I can lose my focus. So just in the straight, he told me to be careful when he got the penalty. I knew that I had to be careful. Indeed, I stayed behind. I didn't try to overtake, and I think that was the best move to do at that point of the race.
Well, you've got a podium to attend, so one final question. Your first win on site in the Simpro Series in Lamborghini colours. Anything you want to say to the team or your fans or family at home?
I'm very thankful for everything, for their support. You know, to win with such a team, it's always incredible. So just thank you for everything to the team, to the family, and to my teammates, everyone who gave the support for this win.
Thanks very much, David Tunitsa. Ben, that's our race winner.
Thank you very much, Paul. Absolutely great to hear from David. He's so calm, isn't he? I mean, he should be riled up and super hyped about that win, but that's the measure of the calmness you need to be a performing esports driver. And as we get ready for the podium ceremony, let's remind ourselves, as we've had a Lamborghini victory here, that you guys can get involved and perhaps be the next teammate to David Tunitsa. We have the real race competition coming up over the next couple of months, and on site you can qualify. The Real Race Super Trofeo Esports is this year's competition. The online qualifier is now open, and in the next couple of rounds on site here and the Endurance Cup, you can also gain yourself an opportunity to be part of the final, which takes place at the Nürburgring, the weekend of the Endurance Cup. In this Fanatec Arena, you might even get a chance to meet Paul Jeffrey. Could you imagine? Make sure you log on and get racing on esports.lamborghini. And of course, at Spa-Francorchamps, we will be there with the Fanatec Arena, and we'll have the on-site qualifier. So if you've been watching this and thought, well, I fancy a go at Tunitsa, come to Spa-Francorchamps, find ourselves in the center of the paddock, jump onto our wildcard qualifier, and you could be racing these guys on Saturday night of the 24 Hours of Spa. I tell you, come to the Spa 24 Hours anyway. It is such a good event. And the icing on the cake, of course, is our sim racing. Well, behind us, we've got the podium ceremony about to get underway. So I'll throw back to Paul, Jeffrey, and thank you guys once again for watching.
Thank you very much, Ben, and hello, welcome everybody. This is the podium ceremony for our Sim Pro race. Before I welcome the drivers up though, a big round of applause, if I can, from everybody for all our drivers that took part today. A big round of applause, please. Congratulations to all the drivers that have shown we've got some trophies. Welcome. In second position, and then blink. He ran away with things. Our winner today, David Tanitsa. That is our podium, and I'm now delighted to welcome to the stage Stefan Rattel to hand out the trophies of SRO Motorsport Group. Stefan Rattel for third place. Chris Artval. Our second place trophy for Arthur Camera. Oh, squeak. And then for the winner, David Tanitsa. Presented by Stefan Rattel of SRO Motorsports Group. These are your podium finishers in what has been another sensational race. And I thank you all in the arena for joining us, at home as well on television, for watching what we hope you've enjoyed an incredible adventure. Do come back again. Make sure you tune in to the GT World YouTube channel. Give us a like and a subscribe. And from Ben in the commentary box, and from myself here, and all involved in this competition, thank you all for watching, and we will see you all again very soon indeed. Bye-bye.